After your initial breakup in 2016, for many of us, it kind of felt like Yellowcard was over for good. What inspired the decision to reunite for Riot Fest and a subsequent anniversary tour? And what made this moment in time feel right for you guys to bring it back?
Thank you, dude. And first of all, let me say that you were not alone in thinking that. We all thought that we had reached the end of the road as well, with no plans to ever do anything again as a band, much less everything that we've done in the last year and a half. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. And it started with Riot Fest, as you mentioned, and we have someone that works with the band that is pretty unique to the music industry, to have someone that is a partner in your business for as long as she's been. But we've had the same booking agent since 2001. So our first officially booked tour, where we knew the doors would be unlocked and there were tickets being sold for it, and we weren't just going to show up and then have to play in someone's garage because it wasn't a real show or whatever, Our first real tour was in 2001 with Rise Against and the Mad Caddies, and our agent, her name is Corey Christopher Martin, booked that show, and she had her own little shop called Fierce Talent at the time, and now she is a vice president at Wasserman and has an entire wing of people that work underneath her. And so she has always been a part of Riot Fest. She was part of the formation of it. She's from Chicago, and so there's is she from Chicago or just lived in Chicago? She's gonna kill me because she's so Orange County too, and San Diego. She's such a SoCal person. But anyway, she has strong ties to Chicago. Let's say that. I apologize, Corey. And so this show came together, and people asked us a lot this question, like, what made you decide to get back together and play a show? And we are in a phase where I think hopefully it's a permanent phase of where just being an open book is really important, and being open with fans and talking about where we are in our lives at this point. And to be fully honest, it was the biggest guarantee we'd ever gotten to play a show, by more than double. And we were so blown away. Some of us in the band weren't speaking to each other at the time and hadn't been since the band ended. It ended on a very high note for us with the fans and their experience, but internally as a band, it did not end in a positive way. It was really sad and heartbreaking and surreal to walk away from it after all that time. So we had some internal things going on, and this got the phone ringing. It's just, at the time, I was at the very beginning of a relationship with now my wife and mother of my son, who was just born 2 months ago. But at the time, Sean had 2 kids, and Ryan Mendez, his wife, was working super hard. She has an amazing job as an architect, but she was, as many people are, digging her way out of school, out of university. It's like, you get an offer like that and you have to take it seriously. You have to put the past behind you and at least have a dialogue, because it's what's right for your family. It's what's right for your future. And it's an opportunity that, whatever differences we've had with each other, with the music business, with our experience, that all has to go away when you get an opportunity like this. And we were certainly sitting there thinking that's what we were doing. Had been touring and playing music, and I was planning on continuing to do that outside of Yellowcard. But I really did have a sense of thinking about the other guys, thinking about Sean and his family, and thinking about Ryan and his wife, and how huge this would be for all of us as a family and for their families. And it made it easy to open my heart and mind to the experience, and to, like, how do we make this right and move forward? So what we thought was just a door opening, and it turned out to be more of like a warehouse, like, sliding door opening, because what followed has been the single most successful chapter of our already long career, and I just can't believe it.
Before I continue, congratulations, by the way, on you becoming a father.
Thank you. It's so fun, man. He's the best. I'm having a blast.
And it's kind of interesting because listening to A Hopeful Sign, I do feel like some of these songs take on a whole new meaning. A lot has changed for you over the past 2 decades, including becoming a father. Revisiting some of these songs with the wisdom that comes of age, what do some of these songs and the album as a whole mean to you now in 2024?
I think the thing that means the most to me is getting to work with Hammock. Hammock has been a really important artist for me, specifically getting through that final chapter of Yellowcard, not being in a very good mental place. Hammock is medicine for your brain in so many ways. it was such an escape for me during that time to sort of just be on my own and listening to Hammock records. And I was newly a fan at that time. Josh, our bass player, who's one of my closest friends in the entire world, knew that I was into the genre, like that I was into ambient post-rock stuff, artists. But for whatever reason, the first time he mentioned that I should get into Hammock, it just didn't. I didn't go check it out or it didn't stick. I don't really remember, but somehow it came back to me, in 2014, 15, and then into that final tour. And I was just down the rabbit hole and just obsessed with their music. And so I think what the record means to me the most the most meaningful thing about the record to me is this just unexpected, incredible collaboration that I never imagined I would be a part of, or that Yellowcard would be a part of. But to your question directly, the songs, I think you kind of nailed it. They have completely new meaning. Mark Bird from Hammock told me that some of the songs that are deeper cuts, like that they would have never heard, a song like Waiting Game, or a song like, I don't know, what's another one that maybe Transmission Home, some of those songs, they just didn't go listen to them. They forced themselves to not listen to the original version of the song so that they could really just have complete freedom to do what they wanted with the vocal track that I sent them. Because that's all I did. I gave them a piano and a vocal. And I said, do whatever you want. And I do say I and not we, because this project started long before Yellowcard was to return. We had no idea. It was going to be a William Ryan Key Hammock release. And it just evolved into so much more. So I think all of the songs have this new weight. And, one that's really obvious, but it's fun to talk about, is Ocean Avenue. This version of that song. It's so heartbreaking and sad. And it's about loss and leaving this happy time, this positive time in your life behind. And I think it hits different when it's presented this way. The lyrics are the same in the more pop rock version, but that one feels fun and summery and exciting, and this one is just like ripping your heart out. And it's amazing that it's the same song.
Yes, that's actually the first thing I noticed listening to it as well. Like you said, the pop rock version, despite having the same lyrics, it's summery. It kind of feels like somebody reminiscing over a fun relationship, someone that they cared about deeply. Whereas, you listen to the new version and it's like the person has lost that person and they're looking back on a relationship that failed. Is completely different. One of the things I want to talk about, just like in your last answer, you've been very vocal about your struggles with mental health and how, in this case, music has helped you cope and heal. How do you take care of your mental health both on and outside a tour?
Yeah. So when I talk about mental health, I do want to say that I'm not someone who struggles with clinical depression that needs to be medicated. And I have so much respect for the people in my life and people that I don't know that have to deal with those circumstances. But I do definitely struggle with a lot of anxiety and insecurity and stress. I can let myself get very overwhelmed and go to a very negative place, which can affect the people around me in a very negative way. I didn't have the best reputation early on in my career for encounters with fans or other bands, or I was so wound up in my own head about the experience of being catapulted into the success that we were so quickly and the responsibility that came with that. And I made a lot of really irresponsible choices, some like physical choices I made to do a thing that I shouldn't have done, some mental choices where I would let myself stay in this state of stress and anxiety and being shut off to the people that I love and people that were supporting the band, fans. And, it was a really strange time. And it's been a long journey to understand that side of my mental health and know that those were the emotions and the feelings that I was struggling with back then. So for me, I like to talk about it because I do feel like that's a very common thing. Those of us that don't struggle with the worst kind of clinical depression, that's the kind of mental health that is a different conversation from this. But I think it's very common for people to struggle with anxiety and let their daily life put more stress on them than is necessary. And it can be very unhealthy. I lived for I started touring in 99, 2000 and stopped in 2016 with the band. I spent almost that whole 15, 16 year period with a sinus infection on tour. And it wasn't because I have a bad immune system. It's because I was so stressed out and tense that gave me a weak immune system. And I have the most concrete, good example of knowing that is the case because I did this summer tour this past year The band was in the best place we've ever been. Our relationships are stronger than ever. We are focused. We are determined. The energy is so positive. I didn't get a sniffle the entire tour. That's never happened in my entire career. I sang every show. I did not lose my voice once. That's never happened. And that to me is clear-cut evidence of the change, the shift for me in being more focused on my mental health and being more focused on taking a breath, man. That's as simple as that for me. It really is. Like, we ask how I do it on and off the road. Meditation has become a big part of my life. I wish that I had the fortitude to literally do it every day, but it is a big part of my life. And on tour this summer, we had a little wellness lounge backstage, and we literally meditated every single night before the show. And those are the kinds of things you wouldn't do when you're 25 years old on the road in a rock and roll band that got that big overnight. It's just, how fast can we go and how hard can we party? And we'll figure it all out later. And so, yeah, just taking the time to breathe and focus and exhale some of that stress and anxiety, it goes so far, man. I feel really lucky and grateful that I've been able to figure it out without it getting to a level where I feel like I needed to be medicated or something like that. I feel like I've really found a way to center myself and work on just who I am as a person. And I owe all of it to my friends who have put up with my shit for 20 years and finally came around and said, hey, dude, if you're open to this, I have a couple of friends who were, if you're open to this, I think meditation and some of these different practices might help. And they were not wrong.
One of the things that you said in the very beginning of your answer that I felt struck a chord, you were talking about, how some of your colleagues struggle with clinical depression. One of the most beautiful experiences that I ever had with you as a musician, I was at the Chester Memorial Concert in Los Angeles. That was a highlight of the night. Your performance of Shadow of the Day, I thought it was fantastic. Your paths with Linkin Park crossed multiple times. You opened for them in Japan, played with them on Warped Tour. Do you have a fond memory that you'd like to share of your experiences of Linkin Park that maybe you haven't shared before?
Yeah, I would say that day in Ventura, I was really nervous. Those types of scenarios I really struggle with, like live television performances. And not to sidetrack from this answer, but another great example of sort of what I talked about earlier, when you can see and feel real results to the work you're putting in with regards to mental health. We just played Good Morning America, which was a huge opportunity for the band. And 20 years ago, in 2004, on the Ocean Avenue touring cycle, when we were doing late night TV and those types of things, I could physically feel my throat just closing up on me to have to go out there and perform. And Good Morning America, I realized as I walked to the stage that I was not feeling any of those feelings. I was relaxed. I was happy. I was enjoying the experience. I was so grateful to be there. It's just different now. And I do say better late than never. I don't want to regret the bad decisions I made and all of that tension and stress and anxiety, because it's brought me where I am now. And it's just the best chapter of my life. And so at Linkin Park, at the show in Ventura, I was terrified, dude. I was just, it was going to, it's the whole like, no, you're singing lead vocals for the first verse and chorus. It's just you. And file that all under all these insecurities I've dealt with for years with my voice and thinking I'm not a good singer. And it's something I've struggled with my whole career. I was just terrified. And I wasn't saying anything. I'm not going to walk around backstage with the Linkin Park guys and be like, I'm so scared. I'm so nervous. But Chester could just tell, man. He could tell something was going on with me. And he walked over to me and put his arm around me. And he just said, dude, you're going to do great. He said, we've never even been to Warped Tour before. We're just as nervous as you are. Like, this is a crowd we've never played for. And you've played for this crowd 12 times, 15 times. They know you. They love you. We have to prove ourselves. And you're going to do great. And it was just like, for an artist of that caliber and that size, I know him, but we're not like texting each other. We're not friends on that kind of level. And so for him to come over and take a moment like that with another artist, I think speaks volumes about the man that he was, the person, the human being, really, that he was. Just a real light for everyone around him. That's what makes his loss so heartbreaking.
What are your ambitions for Yellowcard going forward? Where do you see you guys going within the next couple of years?
You know what, man? That's what's cool is like, we don't have any. And that's not a bad thing. We're not chasing it anymore. When you have a song like Ocean Avenue perform the way it did, I think our sophomore major label record was a pretty classic rock and roll stereotype of huge pop hit song. Second record, we need to prove that we can make rock and roll music. And, that we don't belong on pop radio. And we made lights and sounds and it didn't really resonate. And whether we want to admit it or not, everything we did after that was subconsciously, at least, chasing that time, chasing Ocean Avenue, right? How do you capture that and put it in a bottle again? And everything that's happened for us now, we didn't try to get any of. We didn't ask for any of this. We weren't actively seeking an amphitheater tour in 2024 or 23, excuse me, that was over 95% sold out across the country. The biggest shows we've ever played in our career. We weren't looking for that. It just came to us. And so it's hard to say what our ambitions are going forward, because I think this attitude we've had of letting each opportunity sort of present itself, make an educated decision together as a unit, if it makes sense for our career and for our personal lives and our families, and then move on to the next one. If it's a good opportunity, we take it. And if not, we're going to wait for the ones that make sense. Because towards the end, when we decided to split up in 2016, we almost didn't have that luxury because, you know, at the end of the day, we are trying to make a living here. This is what we do for a job, you know, right? So mortgages need to get paid and kids need to eat. And we were feeling forced to take every opportunity, every tour, every show. And we were so burnt out and we weren't really getting good returns on the effort we were putting in. And it was exhausting. It just took all the joy out of it. And now somehow that joy has returned and it is informing every decision we make. And so I think the best thing to say as far as ambition is my hope for Yellowcard is no matter how long it lasts, if it's 1 more year or 6 more months or 10 more years, is that we stay positive. That's my biggest dream for the band, is that no matter what, collectively, we're able to hold on to this positive energy and this positive connection between the 4 of us that we've really never had before now.